So let's finally discuss the Baron Harkonnen and his portrayal in the films. I have to say first, I got delayed with this recording because I just kept changing my opinion on the matter of the film version and hence rewriting the script. But I think I have now come to the ultimate conclusion, and this is not just about the Baron as portrayed in the film, but also about the Baron from the books, and ultimately about a huge problem that I've had with Frank Herbert as a person for pretty much my entire adult life. I have to stress too, this speech might throw a lot of people off because I'll have a few really negative things to say about the author. You might not like what I say, and that's completely fine for both you and me. I am not making any money from this channel, and I'm also not doing this to please people. I'm doing this only because of my sheer love for Dune, and this prompts me to be completely honest with myself and everyone else. So let's start with the main thing. The Baron as portrayed in the new films. Did I like him? Our short answer would be, initially back with part 1, not at all. Then later on, and especially after my second watching of part 2, I can officially say that I somewhat like his portrayal, and I'm glad they changed him from what he was like in the book. At the same time, they could have changed the book version and come up with something way better than what we got, but I digress. Now, why did I not like the film version? Well, because it was, and you can ascribe this to all of House Harkonnen in the film, too cartoonishly evil, too mustache twirling, like that stupid version of Ramsay that we got in Game of Thrones. I don't need to have my villains always talking like they're trying to scare someone off. I don't need to have them always dressed like Satan, or always looking disgusting, smeared in some kind of a shit-resembling liquid, or always killing some slave or hostage just for fun, etc, etc. I don't need this kind of stuff to understand that someone is quote-unquote evil. They might have made them look more complex. They might have made them more like what they actually were in the books too. Privileged, cocky, spoiled, politically savvy aristocrats that both had their own agency, but were also played around by bigger powers than themselves, much like the Emperor was. It's like Helen Mohayem said to Jessica at the end of the film, you know there's no such things as sides. There's ultimately no wrong or right person to take power. It's all about whoever wins. And at the end of the day, everyone's horrible in their own specific way. So, in other words, I think the portrayal of the Baron in the film was shallow. And I cannot stress this enough. It's not because of the actor. He did a great job with what he was given. One thing I'll say about him though, I wasn't really happy with the voice he did, because in the book one of the more prominent things about the Baron was that he had a very low bass voice. I'd imagine something like Christopher Lee's, and in the film Skarsgård didn't sound imposing to me at all. He just kind of sounded like my drunk grandpa, as in However, they kind of redeemed the portrayal for me with this second film because of yet another book change that I really loved, but I'm gonna discuss this separately. And now, the more important point that I wanted to make. So, the Baron in the film was not at all like what he was in the book. At the end of the day, am I mad about that? No, absolutely not. And actually, I am glad, because the Baron in the books was notoriously a file. And Frank Herbert, the weirdo that he was, wrote it in such a way that everyone was very much aware he was a file. And I just don't want to read such disgusting crap. I felt so uncomfortable reading this back in my teens. And by the way, this problem persists in all of the books, especially the last two get really, and I mean really disturbing with the sexual aspect of it. And the people who know about Miles Tegg and have read Chapter House will know what I'm talking about. In many ways, through these books, we get somewhat horrifying glimpses of how weird Frank Herbert was. And not only when it comes to the inappropriate stuff, but also with the stuff that one might say is just the usual sexual elements. Even those he makes sound so weird for some reason. His specific descriptions of genital contractions and juices and perspiration, like, why do I have to read all this? Why don't you just sit down, fat one out, and then write your books? And now the worst part, especially when it comes to me personally. I really had to struggle with this over the years because I'm a gay man and Frank Herbert was notoriously a homophobe. And it showed in the books. He made the Baron, at least as far as I remember, not only a but also kind of like a sassy drag queen type of guy. And I think it's because Frank Herbert, the fucking genius that he was, equated being gay to being a pedophile. And he also, ironically, happens to have a gay son, who of course got estranged from him. I can't imagine why. And also, my favorite book of all times, God Emperor, and my favorite character of all times, Leto II. Him saying in the book that he wanted his army made out of women only because men tended toward perversions, meaning gay sex. So many years I've had to live with that since I was a teenager. Frank Herbert telling me, an already shy and traumatized teenager, telling me from beyond the grave, through his damn book, that he thinks I'm perverted. One must then wonder why this book was my favorite, but what can I do? I'm human, I have my own contradictions like everyone. And so yeah, because of all of that, I'm really glad that they didn't show it in the film, and at the end of the day, I'm totally fine with what we got. It wasn't perfect, but at least it wasn't Frank Herbert's own weird bullshit.